Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of AWS TechTales. I'm your host, Matt Burke.
And I am your co-host, Amara Reaño. Welcome back, everyone. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. Happy spring break to those of you who may or may not be off or taking care of your kiddos.
Yep.
Um, we have another exciting episode of TechTales today. We're actually at the end, Samara, of our unified operations campaign topic. I don't know what the right word to describe it is, but our
Series,
overarching
series.
series. But we're a series too. Um, so for those of you that are just joining us, AWS Tech Tales is a show where we talk about real life customer issues, what you can do to solve them. And we've been doing this series about not just the newest support plan that we offer at AWS, which is called Unified Operations, but all the different pieces that are part of that support plan and how that you can leverage some of those individual services or individual practices on your own without being a giant enterprise customer, like just being a builder, a developer, or someone that's interested in AWS at large.
Yeah, I think that the only thing that I would add to it is that it has given us kind of a wider view of what else is out there, what else you could be leveraging right now as you test different services or different ways to doing your day-to-day job. You could be a developer looking into something more kind of, I guess, AI assistant to troubleshoot some things for you to try to figure out a way to move forward without engaging right away with support. And we have kind of given you those assets for you to kind of consider and see, and maybe start looking around if you're part of a corporation that actually has those things available to you.
Oh, Iriad is saying, "Oh, I caught that some of that late. I just heard this is the end, and I was scared for a second. No, 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 no,
You're
no.
scaring people, Matt.
We will be around. Don't worry, Erie." And so at the top of the show, we wanted to kind of do some current events. We don't normally do that, but current
Mhm.
events in our world means new features that are launched, new fun, exciting items. And I'm really excited because we were talking on the show about DevOps Agent a few weeks
Yes.
back, and now
Hmm.
it is generally available. So now there's
Hmm.
no little asterisks here saying
Right.
we're in private preview. And so now you can be confident to start to use DevOps Agent in production environments, but you can obviously start and scope it to your dev QA and kick the tires. But I think the thing that we were all asking about is what is the price? What is the
Hmm.
pricing for this? Because it wasn't preview, it was free. And so I want to cut to the chase because when I read this pricing, I was initially confused. And so I want to go straight down to this language, which again, I think if you just read it quickly, I might be confused. Have you read? Do you know about this, Samara, yet about
No,
the
not yet.
pricing
I haven't
structure?
reviewed the pricing structure yet. So that's a good thing that you're reviewing
So
it
let
right
me.
now.
I'll read this out, and then you tell me what you how you interpret
How I
that because I
interpret this.
interpreted this wrong
Okay.
originally. So
Okay.
customers on paid AWS support plans receive monthly DevOps agent credits based on the prior month's gross AWS support charge, 100% for unified operations, 75% for enterprise support, and 30% for business support plus.
Okay. So as I interpreted is whatever I paid last month, if I am on enterprise support, that means I get 75% discount of whatever I used against that for DevOps agent. Is that correct? And then one thing that I know about credits is that it contributes back into in the payer that you're, let's say, subscribed to for AWS.
So you interpreted it the way that I originally interpreted it,
Oh, okay, okay.
but it is not correct.
Oh
And this is why I wanted
no.
to point this out at the top of the show for folks that were interested in talking about DevOps Agent, or if you've never heard of DevOps Agent before, this is now the perfect time to check it out. But
Okay.
what it actually means, and we have this example here, AWS
Okay.
support cost, credit cost offset. What it means if you're an enterprise support customer is that if you spent $10,000 a month for support, we're going to give you $7,500 in credits to use for DevOps Agent. Now, Samara and I work with customers that spend way
Way more
than
than that. Yes.
for support. So it is, to me, effectively free for them to use this, because if they're spending not tens of thousands of dollars, but more than that, then they're not gonna hit these maxes, which is like, I mean, what we're seeing for like 10 agent spaces, 500 incidents, 40 evaluations is a pretty low number. Again, these are just examples of what those pricing translates to, but effectively free, which I think is super cool. So yeah, if you are even on business support, you're gonna get 30% in credits.
No, I mean, I think it's a very competitive pricing, especially for what you're getting out of actually interacting and using DevOps Agent. So that's just my 2 cents there.
The only thing that is the little caveat here is it doesn't count. It counts towards the agent. So like when we talk about like the agent per second, like the actual agent that's running. But if the agent is hitting a bunch of APIs, if it's doing a lot of things that cost money on the side, that is a separate.
Right, that's a separate billing structure that you will pay for whatever functions are going in that background.
That should be relatively
right.
small.
Especially if you're testing around, like you're just kind of getting like a sense of how everything works and connects. And so I think, yeah, good thing that you point this out. I guess I have to deep dive more into the pricing as well, because it's definitely doesn't seem like it will cost you a lot, at least from just what I'm seeing here.
Well, again, if we look at it from like an enterprise deployment in this example here, if these numbers I think are pretty high, but I think that like for an enterprise customer, you might have an agent space per application.
Right, per application rather than per account, right?
So it just depends, like how many horrible things are happening per month that you're proactively having the agent look at. I don't know.
That is true.
And potentially that's the highest point it will ever be, because then your agent will help you get some recommendations for remediation, your post-incident reports and all that stuff. So
that's true. That's true. Yeah. Cool.
But this was not the topic for today. We are going to talk about another. So I think what's interesting about DevOps Agent is we're basically bundling it with support to a certain extent with these credits. And we come to another service that also is bundled in support. And this is why we're focusing it on our last of this unified operations series, which is AWS Security Incident Response, which is another service that you may or may not be familiar with, especially if you're not in the security space, and you may not be aware that if you're an enterprise support customer or a unified operations customer, that this is free. Now you can get this anyway without support, but then it is a paid service.
That is correct. I think that one thing that I have, I guess, learned from our audience during this series that we have done going through unified operations is how much of these services and offerings aren't as widely known, because you kind of haven't, kind of kicked the tires around other areas of the console outside of what you immediately do on a day-to-day basis. But that's what we kind of think about, right? But then as you actually learn about these services and you deep dive into their capabilities, you're kind of like, that can actually take care of some area of what I do, or impacts down the line to something of the work that I do on a day-to-day basis, which you, like what you said right now, if you're not in the security space, it maybe doesn't like attract me, but in reality it could. So I find it interesting that we have these discussions, and then the audience is kind of like, that would actually help me, but I didn't know it could.
I mean, I just Googled on the side how many AWS services there are, and we're saying 240 plus. So
it's kind of hard to
that's why we got this search bar. That's why we got the search bar in the console, so that you don't have any issues.
That is true. But sometimes we do, like, for example, I'm guilty of that. Like in my console, there is these services that I like would know for day-to-day basis. Like I go and I like do stuff with. So I even have them like as favorites. So I don't even use the search bar. I just go to those like favorite ones and they're already there. So it doesn't even, I feel like when you use the search bar, you kind of have a more potential of finding out something like, oh, what is that? And then you click on it. But when you don't, it's kind of like you don't even have the option. So maybe I should stop doing that.
I'm just fixing my login. So yeah, so we're going to talk about security incident response today, which I think the simplest way to think about this is we've been talking a lot about reactive and then proactive response via AWS Support. And this is that, but for security incidents. So we have at AWS a trust and safety team, and you don't talk to them, they talk to you, they reach out to you. And
Yes.
if something's gone horribly wrong, or you just report into the, if you want to do an abuse report, let's say like someone, you're detecting something that's hosted in AWS is doing something malicious, or somebody is doing something malicious to you in your AWS environment, you can report it trust and safety. But in terms of security incidents, this is now your way to have a two-way channel, both us monitor your environment for security events and you to open up an incident with us to our security teams. So different than support console, different, completely separate service and experience, but something that we're bundling in with support.
Yeah, definitely something more, I guess, like we will use the word like, I don't want to say dedicated because it could be different team members assisting at different times, but it's more of like a one-to-one interaction rather than like what we have said before and cover, right? Like kind of like going back and try to be more on the reactive side of just trying to get communication and context around what's going on in the moment rather than as it goes on.
Okay, I'm fixing the window. So I'll give you the quick hits from the website, but then we can kind of slowly migrate towards the demo. But really what we're talking about is like, we want to take your security alerts and we want to be able to filter through the noise. There's a lot of alerts out there. Which are the ones that you and your team should action versus ones that you could probably either informed ignore or, sweep under the rug. And then helping you respond to an active security event. So we'll talk through what those cases would look like. And then again, scaling your security operations center. So this is not, I think I've talked to a couple customers about this. I've not been the expert at the time. I've had other people come in and present, but the question has been, is this just AWS? And the answer is no, we can feed in other telemetry if you have it. So if you just want us to evaluate your security, if there's any incidents going on, we can do that, which is pretty cool. So I'll talk a little bit about pricing before we move into the just talking through demo. If folks have any questions, please feel free.
Yeah.
But we do this pricing based on GuardDuty and other third-party tools that come in through Security Hub, and your first 10,000 findings per month are free. So you're like, what does this look like? Well, there's this free tier, and then after the first 10, there's 100,000. But as Zamar and I were talking about before we went on air, the funny thing is if you just actually scroll down to this fun part about support plans, if you're on enterprise support or unified operations, it is completely free. And even if you are above that free tier, you're not be billed even above the free tier.
Yep, which was something that, like Matt said, I was kind of looking at through because we always kind of want to be prepared to have the pricing conversation. So we will go over the different aspects. And I was the one that didn't scroll all the way down.
There's a lot. Look, there's such a lot of information. It's information overload. There's all these different services, all these different pricing, and it's sometimes hard to estimate, which is why we give you these examples. And maybe these examples sound really good and don't reflect like what your company is like. So you just have to put in the calculator or kick the tires, do the test run, and kind of evaluate based on that.
Yep. So I guess before we jump into like the more deeper dive of it, I guess for our audience, how would you go about activating it?
Oh, so this is what it would look like if you wanted to go activate it. You need to do it in your management account. And you'll see this kind of sign up page here, and it will link you to the documentation. We'll talk about some of the awesome things. And then you'll click sign up, and then you will go through this sign up flow. Essentially, there's 5 steps. We'll kind of walk a little bit through it, but it won't work because I'm already enrolled. But essentially, you'll decide who is enrolling. And I'll make this slightly bigger, actually. Who's enrolling? Is it your entire organization, or is it part of your organization? So like you can pick some OUs afterwards, and then you can give it name. So SIR member, and then you're going to want to start to put in your contacts. So in this example, it can just be Matt and Zamara. And we'll put our TechTales email in here. But so you're just basically saying who's going to be notified, because again, this is outside of support, outside of your operational contacts.
I think that this is the first time I've seen someone type my name live without messing up the spelling of it.
I type your name a lot. And you can do a tag for this if you want to allocate costs for
For
SIR.
that specific, yeah.
Let's do
since you're I know that this is not going to be able to go through, right, because you have already registered and signed up, but like if you're doing it to the partial, then that means that you kind of go through and just provide the specific accounts that you want to sign up for it if you're part of that org.
So what you do is you will only set up the management account first.
Oh, okay. Only the management
and then you'll
account.
add the OUs afterwards. It's not in this flow yet because it doesn't have access to read those permissions yet.
Okay, got you. All right. So it's not that you're selecting which accounts or listing them out in this particular step. Okay.
Yeah. And so then it gives you this option, which is like, okay, permissions for proactive response. So we're talking about like, hey, we need a role. We need a service role to grab those findings from GuardDuty, and then the rest from Security Hub. And like you can onboard without having GuardDuty enabled or having Security Hub enabled. And then it really doesn't, then we don't have a proactive response anymore. It is just you open up a ticket, you want an investigation. And the recommendation is like, please use it. But
of course, yes.
You don't have to.
Okay,
and so we're giving it
requirement.
Yeah, and so we're giving it these role guidelines. So like, again, if we're talking about what the IAM permissions are, you can do a bit deeper in terms of these managed policies that we're working with. But I won't bore you with the IAM details. But basically, you're saying, do you want to turn this on or not? And if you wanted to go deeper into what the role is for the service role for triage, it gives you the full IAM role. It says, I'm allowing you to put events, delete rules associated with events, describe events. I can archive findings, create filters, describe the malware scans, get information about your filters, the findings, the detectors. You can start a malware scan in GuardDuty and then get all the findings in Security Hub and essentially push this to the SIR team.
Let me ask you something. So like, let's say that there is this use case in an organization that you don't necessarily want all of those notifications to go out to every single of those accounts, but you work kind of like approach it from a more centralized way where you just want to delegate one specific account to be able to gather all of those findings and notifications. Are you able to do something like that with this?
Yeah, so basically like you manage the, and we'll show what it looks like on the other end. You manage the SIR implementation from one account, but you enroll like either a subset of your organization, or your whole organization.
Cool.
So we'll go next. And again, we're not going to go fully, but then we're basically saying, okay, here's the permission. So you can see like from this step, we're basically saying yes or no to proactive response, yes or no to mutable actions, which is just like, hey, like making cases on your behalf, creating filters on your behalf, that sort of thing.
Okay.
And then the actual role that needs to just turn this on in general. So this isn't necessary to turn it on. Like we said, you can just turn it off and not have it. But this is, so which is basically the service linked role for security incident response. It's basically giving it, and that's why you couldn't do the OU stuff yet, is
Okay.
Here's all the organization permissions
Structure,
it needs.
yeah.
Creating cases, and then basically like giving itself the access to manage
To be able
itself.
to do so, yes.
Yeah. And so that's it. You get to this point and you hit sign up and the bill starts if you're not on enterprise support or UOps. But once you do that, then you get this different view.
Okay.
So this is what it would look like if you were enrolled. Now you have, instead of sign up, you have
view dashboard. Yeah. All right, let's see what that looks like.
So you can see basically how that configuration has played out, where how many accounts are in your organization. You can see here's all my OUs and how many accounts that are, so basically I have all my accounts enrolled today in my entire organization. And then who's on your team. So your incident response team is up to 10 members. And so then like if you wanted to add more, then like if there's a case open, you can tag somebody to it. But essentially you have folks in here that, and these are the different roles that we're positing. You have security specialists, your CISO, your security SA, the detection lead. And so then we're giving them subscriptions to each of these events within security incident response. It's email them if there's a case created, email them if there's a case that's updated, and so on and so forth.
Got you. So you can kind of filter in the content that you want to be delivered to the different levels of, I guess, of the organization and how it is structured.
So you fill this out here, and again, you're receiving emails by default. And this could also be like for third-party security services. So if you're trying to like ingest this someplace else and send emails out, you can. And so the final thing you can do from this like additional page is you can add additional permissions for containment, eradication, and recovery. So this actually just links you to the stack set, but essentially it's you could deploy another policy that allows it to do a bit more actions, because we kind of saw how it was constrained in the initial deployment, which I don't think we have that here. And that's pretty much, before we get into cases, that's pretty much it. Otherwise, like you can check to see if your proactive response is on, because it's not here. So I have proactive response on in this account. You can manage the memberships again of the individual accounts. Like if I wanted to essentially like offboard an account, I could technically. And then you can come in here to see your tags, the central membership account, which is where I'm in. And then if you need to cancel your membership, it's right here.
That's right there. All right, cool. That seems, yeah, I have more questions, I guess, like once you go back to the cases, because I saw something, but then I'll hold my question until there. But in the meantime, if the audience has any questions so far, or if you're already been using and there is like some cool things that you seen better your day-to-day life, if you're in the security space using this, like let us know, or have any questions for us.
Yeah, I feel like I'm almost through all the content here. I mean, it's a very simple, like it's simple enough in terms of like just to onboard and to understand, because it's not something that like you you configure and you do. It's set and not forget, but set and your insurance policy is turned on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I understand, but I feel like it definitely gives more of like a more targeted visibility within the organization to a specific team of people that would actually need to action these notifications going forward. So it kind of does create, I didn't want to use that word dedicated, but it is kind of like a more dedicated function internally to be able to do just that, right? So
Mhm.
you're not kind of filtering in the communication of like sometimes one of the things that we know is that you can have hundreds of accounts, right? And you're getting notifications on all of them. So it can become like just a lot of noise. And you're kind of like, well, I don't know what this is or that is or that is, because it's not something that you're, in the realm of your everyday activities. But with this, it's more purposeful, right? It's going to the right people and you get to filter which one you should action and what the next step should be internally, right? So I definitely think it creates kind of like a containment of like not being able to just kind of navigate to what you should bring forward, I guess, to your workload leaders, or how to kind of bring visibility to these notifications going forward.
Yeah, and it's just like another tool in the toolkit at the end of the day.
Hmm.
So before we dive into some of these example cases, we'll just talk about how you would create a case yourself. So you can essentially decide between, do you want to have us resolve something, or do you want to like log an event on your own behalf here?
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, but I think for the most part, folks will do the AWS supported. So I'll cover the self-managed really quickly, which is just like, here's the case, here's where we think things are impacted. We have a stock description for you to talk through. And then maybe there's other cases, like like where are the
Oh,
regions, what are the services, the threat actor IP, and who should be watching this case. Because we have the incident response team. They're already, again, tagged, and you can see them all here. So who else do we need to add as an additional person that'll get an email? And then you just create it. So then basically like you're logging this as a central place. I don't know
I
who.
was just gonna say it sounds more of like maybe it's just more of like a task management, right? Like making sure that you're driving those discussions internally and that you are working with the right people to make sure that you do that. But it's more of like an internal approach,
Mhm.
because essentially the team that it's dedicated to these is pretty much the owners. So there will be no AWS intervention outside of the notifications that have been flagged within that itself. Is that correct?
Mhm.
There is no CSE interaction or anything like that.
Well, there's a we'll walk through it, but like I mean, there will be somebody assigned from the team to interact with.
For the self manage?
Oh, no.
Yeah, that's the one that I was referring to.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the, again, self-managed, and I think there's a couple self-managed cases in here. Um, so if again, there's like a self-managed here that like can get pushed to Jira, and so you have your option to update your status. And then obviously you can then escalate to say get help from AWS.
Yeah, we have a question from someone. They're saying, any advice to work for AWS just after graduation? I would say take a look at the job listings that are currently on Amazon Jobs. That's always a good avenue to go see what openings are there in your region or where you're located in the world. So definitely start there.
I would say two certifications. That's how I think a lot of us got our foot in the door, is by
Hmm.
taking at least one AWS certification and having that on your certificate. I mean, on your resume.
Hmm.
That puts you ahead of all the folks that don't have any AWS
That
experience.
is true. Yeah, definitely. It gives you a foot in the door into understanding also all the services that we have to offer and how you can use them as well going forward. So definitely a great way to start.
Oh, I like this. This is so okay. We'll do this in a sec. But so then if you wanted to open up a case to actually be worked on, resolved by AWS,
Hmm.
you can choose between something that's like an active security incident. So let's say you're getting DDoSed or something.
Yeah, it's like a prod event.
You can do active security incident, and again add the threat IPs, or just investigation. So it's like, hey, something happened. Can you investigate what's going on here? And we're again breaking this down. And what happened? How did you discover it? What is the current impact? What have you done so far? And what would you like us to help you?
I love those questions. They're very concise and straight to the point of exactly the type of information that is needed. So
Yeah.
I like that. That is included there to get you started.
So that's how you create a case. So we have some examples in this account of what some cases would look like. So for example, we have this EKS compromise case. So EKS cluster appears to be, I'll make this bigger because it's kind of small. Oh, wow, I made this so big. Okay. EKS cluster appears to be compromised. It's from a guard duty extended threat detection finding. What is the current impact? None yet, but this is in production. I love that. They just started by reviewing the guard duty finding, and they would like help validating all activities and status of the EKS cluster. So it's giving additional
the ARN.
case ARN, impacted accounts, things like that, and the metadata. So like here's the cluster, and here's the guard duty finding.
Oh, does it tell you which, like, what was the explanation of the finding?
Well, so now this is, so basically like it added that metadata.
Mm-hmm.
So then you can see what the finding looked like. So here's the finding, here's the service role, here's the EKS environment, and that they deserve that CloudTrail is normal, but there were multiple network interface and create attempts.
Mm-hmm.
There was no IAM activity from the IAM users on the account. So it doesn't seem that there are any unauthorized API calls. There wasn't any failed authorization attempts. It even gives you a cost analysis to say, hey, like, this can either, I guess, well, this doesn't really help you because it's saying, hey, the cost might not have been there when it looked. But then basically saying, okay, here's the assessment. That there may be compromise that's occurring at the runtime or container level. And here's what the limitations are, and here's what the next steps are. So examine your logs, investigate runtime activity, and this is how confident, what it's confident in, moderate confident, low confidence.
And this is what you said. This is already like, this is an active AWS case, like, or
So
is it
this
just a notification and then you proceed to go to submit?
So
let's say,
this
a
is
case if
basically
you
like
wanna-
your AI investigation
AI. Okay, got you.
response. The
Okay.
actual communications on the case, like kind of what we're used to as folks that work in support, is like, you know, this is how it looks like, is like, here's the this is the AI investigation summary. But again, like this is kind of how we would walk through the different actions, and you can see there's a log of all the activities.
Okay.
Of who's opened the case and who's been touching it.
Got you. Okay.
And then you can see like if there's any open action items. Let me find one that maybe has an action item. This one doesn't have it either. But yeah, so like some examples that we've got here is like our S3 block public access is disabled. We don't know how it happened. So like helping them with that. And so it's saying, hey, you got this guard duty alert, and walks through the findings here. So what I do like is this also gives you you have the permissions here as well. If someone says, hey, I don't have access to look at this case, you can do that.
Yeah. The attachments, whatever, I guess you kind of sometimes you're required to provide information on some logs or things like that. So I like it that it's also kind of tagged out here as well.
Mm-hmm. Let me see here. Proactive case. Okay, this is a self-assessment one. I'm just slipping through to see if there's one that has an action item.
Got you.
No, okay. Yeah, see, here's the basically the inputs of like what the communications like, the comments. But yeah, it's fairly straightforward. Like I feel like
No, I really like it, and it's like the UI of it is very easy to navigate through as well. I feel like you don't like even if I never interacted with it, it's pretty straightforward to kind of go through the different areas and motions of it. So I think that the longer that you will spend time trying this, like, as you try it out, is actually inputting the contacts and the people that you want to kind of have on the loop from the organization side to make sure that the right team members are on it. But then other than that, it seems pretty straightforward.
yeah. So that let me see if there's anything else that we didn't cover
Let's
that we
see.
want to walk through. Oh, well, so there's some things that we can do in EventBridge. So let's go over there and check out those integrations.
Okay.
So I should have some EventBridge rules, which should call SIR. Yeah, so we've
Alright, you
got
have some
some
there. Mhm.
EventBridge rules that are basically saying, hey, if if a case was updated,
You have the SNS
you
topic.
can push it to Jira.
Okay.
So basically, like if there's additional integrations that you want to do to shuttle this
Mhm.
from one to another, and so we've got that's basically SNS to incident response team, SAR duty rules. So again, taking these guard duty rules and this gets pushed to SIR. So these are the like how this would show up in EventBridge. But if you wanted to, create your own rule, let me go. Where is it? The button. Here we go. You can go from security incident response. So then you see there's some options here to pull from
Mhm.
SIR to like automate these actions. So if there's a
Mhm.
specific API call, specific service event, but you're probably going for like if you want to add more case creation methodology, case created, case updated,
It's kind of
case
every
comment added, memberships.
emotions. Mhm.
So if you want to actually like get an alert, let's say if someone pulled the membership and canceled the subscription or pulled your
Imagine, it's
account
like,
from
who
it,
canceled it?
yeah.
You get an alert.
So that is the EventBridge. And the last thing that I'll show is like basically like how we're doing the integration. So like for example, you can have this integrate with, and you're seeing it through EventBridge, like you can have this integrate with Jira, you can have this integrate with anything that basically has an integration with EventBridge, like ServiceNow or
ServiceNow, yes.
Slack. You can create an integration for that. And so you can see it in our SIR case. There's some of these that are just like in there for monitoring purposes. So like here, Jira connection. So this was basically, it will flow to, like all these comments will essentially flow to Jira.
I guess
So I don't have.
I will have to look more into the Slack integration, because I guess like one question that I will have from there is it like it creates a Slack channel for every single time that there is, I guess, like a event or a case, or does it just continue feeding into that one specific channel that it's configure for the role? Like, I guess like that would just be like my pending question that I think that I would like want to look more into, because
So
sometimes like you can integrate it in a way that it just creates that space for that specific finding rather than it being a continuous channel.
yeah, and so it would be creating this as like a separate like case or integrated with a specific project.
Right. So then it will be like one per, I would assume, rather than a continuous. It's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I can't get it. There is a Jira environment, but we can get into it right now. But basically, it will look something like this, where you see that there's different tasks that are being put into Jira, so you can push it. I mean, they make integration with most other this kind of tooling.
We have Brigetti said, "Hi guys, tail before bed." Hi.
Tactile before bed. So yeah, for those that are just joining us, we're just starting to kind of wrap up the demo for security incident response. So we were talking through what the cases look like, how you'd sign up for incident response, like what are the configuration settings you might have, and then we kind of started to talk about integration with third-party management tooling like Jira, ServiceNow, things like that, which can all be done through mostly EventBridge.
Yep.
But
As we go on the conversation of, we're continue to have this conversation of what it's available under unified operations, enterprise support, but then also as a standalone service that you can use, don't necessarily have to be part of those support tiers as well. So definitely something to kind of think about and probably try it on your end.
Or talk to your manager, maybe get some kudos on turning this on, because again, like if you are at a company that uses AWS extensively, you most likely have enterprise support, and if so, then there's really no reason to not sign up
To
for
not
this.
have it, exactly. Especially if it's free under for enterprise supports. So
And if you need more ammunition or more understanding, like obviously you're here, you're listening to us, but in the page itself, there's a full knowledge center of you might have to update permissions in the management account, how to configure your membership account. There's videos that give you overviews, how to connect this to Jira and ServiceNow, how to what are some free workshops that you can do, and then finally enabling automated containment, which is what we're talking about with this proactive response and this containment, eradication, and recovery, where basically we're deploying additional permissions that we can do some things on your behalf.
Or if you have already been kind of looking at it and you know that you are part of an organization with enterprise support and you know your TAM, you can always start that conversation with them as well.
I like it also links you out to GuardDuty and Security Hub. But so again, I think, what we can talk about for the last 10 minutes or so is okay, where is it feeding some of this stuff from? And so GuardDuty is one place. So you can see that there are some GuardDuty findings in this particular account. One of them is essentially potential EC2 instance group compromise of one or more instances. So these are the type of findings or signals that then can proactively get sent to the security incident response team. So it's not just hey, we're alerting you about something. It's, hey, now you can have an active event or an active investigation to kind of help you if you don't have a security incident response team. You might get these notifications and be like, okay, I don't know what to do.
Right. What do I do with this information now? What's the next step here?
Yeah. And so we've got in GuardDuty, across different protections, you've got, S3, EKS, runtime, so you can kind of go
I was
things.
gonna say, like, for the extended threat detection, it
Mhm.
just okay, maybe I remember the new one.
So this is like if it's covering across multiple resources, that may not be like service
Immediate to
specific.
just
It might
one.
be jumping
Okay.
between things. So we're
Okay.
saying credentials misuse, groups of EC2 instances, but then it's also saying here's like the related ones that we also source from. So
Okay.
we've got S3 on, we've got EKS on, we've got runtime monitoring on for a little bit, but there's a couple accounts that don't have it on. There's one account that doesn't have it on. We got malware, so like it's scanning EC2 for the EBS volumes that potentially have malware. We're scanning S3.
Yeah,
You
the
can scan your
AWS backup.
backups,
Mm-hmm.
which is cool. RDS protection, so login activity monitoring, and then Lambda protection. So then you can kind of see, what is your usage metrics. So like, again, if there's a spike that before it hits your bill. But then there's also these suppression rules. So this is what we were talking about earlier, where you could create a suppression rule automatically. So let's see what it created. It created this rule that said, hey, suppress instance level resources. Like we want something that's higher level. So we have all these different resource types. So it's saying if it's a low instance level finding, we don't care. No, thank
okay.
you.
Yeah, like don't notify me.
And then we created this other one, which is if it's a low S3 server access logging disabled finding, I don't care. And you can see these are also ranked, so it'll kind of go in order. And then the number one is this: if someone if it's a low severity and it has something to do with your CloudTrail logging disabled. So this is where you would go and set those or have us create those on your behalf using those extra role permissions. So you get that from guard duty, and then you also have Security Hub.
Mm-hmm. That's the other piece of the puzzle.
Mm-hmm. So then you get a bit more. So you can see that the guard duty findings are in Security Hub. So you're getting it all in that. I hesitate to say single pane of glass. That was such like it's such a popular term. I feel like we're moving away from it now. But you can set a bunch of widgets. You have this dashboard, and so then it really is kind of summarizing
what you've already seen in the other. Yeah.
So
I think I've become
the policies.
I think I've become more. No, I was just gonna say I think I've become more used to saying the centralized environment more than that phrase.
Yeah, because you're seeing like this is now we have inspector coming in here. So we have this, and then we have our Jira board integration that's in here. But you can see you can also add
like the different areas. Yeah.
ServiceNow, CrowdStrike, Kerbal, Datadog, which is exciting. And some automation rules. So if you need to create a rule, it said security groups should not allow unrestricted access to ports for high risk. So basically we're saying we don't want this to happen. Then it will fix that automatically. So that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
So then all these findings would get fed into Security Incident Response.
Right.
It's a lot of stuff in this.
I know. I was just gonna say there is. So if
well,
you
that's
scroll
because
up,
we're
if you scroll up in the left
testing.
side, there is like what is it called? Like the severity of each of them. Is it just kind of like something that you manage what to call a severity, how critical it is, or just like based on the type of resource and work that it's doing, it creates a criticality for you?
Yeah, I don't know how it's defining the severities, like what the logic is behind it. But what's interesting is actually another one, which is a fatal
Fatal.
severity. There,
Wow.
there's none of those in this account, thankfully.
Okay. All right, and then age about 6 hours. So then that's when it was identified. 8 days, 5 days, 3 days, about 6 hours. Okay.
And then on top of it, there's also Security Hub CSPM too.
CSPM. What does that stand for? CSPM.
Now you're putting me on the spot.
No, let me check it. CSP. Cloud Security Posture Management.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then this is the new.
Yeah, it says provides you with comprehensive view of your security state in AWS and helps you assess your AWS environment against security industry standards and best practices.
So yeah, you can see your resource tagging standard, Cloud Foundation standard, security best practices. So you can benchmark over here. This is cool. I actually need to, maybe we should dig in
Yeah,
this for
I
a
hadn't
future
seen this
episode.
one either. Yeah, that's why I was like, what is that? You see, we're uncovering new content here, Matt.
That's how it usually goes here in TechTales. But that's about all I can squeeze out of this lemon, Zamara, I think.
I mean, I think that you're right on time. We are literally what 4 minutes away from the end of the stream today. So then just, for our audience out there, definitely if you haven't looked around Security Hub, Guard Duty, and then just how everything kind of plans out under security incident response, definitely a good opportunity for you to do so. Any parting, I guess, from your experience with talking to customers and things like that, Matt, where I guess like any parting thoughts of anything relating to incident response that I guess we haven't covered? I think we have covered everything.
I would say, look, my calls to action here are poke around in the console, take a look, talk to the security person, ask them whether this is turned on or not. Typically, those people may or may not have ever, maybe they're ingesting these findings, they're using all these other services, but they're not in console. So you're going to want to do that one-time setup. It's going to be a partnership potentially to do this one-time setup, but then you have it integrate with where they live, whether that's Jira, ServiceNow, or what have you. Get those emails to the right person so that we can both proactively monitor as well as so that we can how you can have cases be opened to us.
I think that
go
it
from
would
there.
it's a great way to kind of define that dedicated team in your organization that is actually who needs to have the visibility to have these notifications and how they want to move forward with them, how you assess which one is a critical action, which ones can be kind of reviewed, and then go from there.
And if you need any help, we got all the documentation, but I think we kind of covered most of it.
I think yeah, exactly. I was gonna say we even uncovered things that, we didn't think about before either, but definitely something to look forward to deep diving more in the future. And with the future in mind, I would say give us some time to update the page with all the notes,
Give Matt
with
some
whatever is
time.
upcoming.
Yeah, so I would say, like, folks that are still on, if you've got any ideas for some future episodes, since we're wrapping up our unified operations series, again, we got more time for other things. We might dig into DevOps agents a bit more. I've got some returning guests that have reached out and asked to come back. But if you got something that you want us to cover, or if you've got a real issue that you want us to help solve, let us know. I mean, personally, Zamara, if I've had any issues, I just keep asking Kiro, and it keeps fixing them for me. So
That's
I don't
really
know.
cool. Yeah, that's true. I mean, we saw it not too long ago. I think that we have had different sessions looking at that and how great it is and how productive it becomes as you kind of work yourself out of some issues. But yeah, feel free to reach out to us, or if maybe there was an episode where we were diving deep into a specific solution or service that we didn't have enough time to do and you kind of want to go back and continue exploring, let us know about those too.
Yeah, folks. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Bye, everyone. Have a good week.
Bye.